Hello friends, let us start about mutation testing. This is a new word or new term that you will be studying today. A mutation, let me tell you the definition first. A mutation of a program is a modification of a program created by introducing a single small legal syntactic change in the code. That means your mutation is actually your original program. Your original program is again made a replica, and there the number of the changes has been made. And those changes, the changes in a mutant program are kept extremely small so that it does not affect the entire or overall the program. Okay, your main code is as it is. Your main code is not hampered. Just that made a replica of it and made a small synthetic change in the code. The objective, the goal of the mutation is to assess the quality of the test cases. Then a modified program so obtained. Now those changes, when you save it, now that version, that is a new one. So name it as B. So that B is called your mutant. The term, how the term has derived in software testing, the mutant is some of the biology word. It has been borrowed. It has been taken away. Now, some of the mutants are equivalent to the original program. You will feel the mutant, whatever mutant you have written on your code, you will feel that is the same of the original program, but whereas the others are faulty, but that will help you to test about your test cases and give you the idea about how your code is executed. Now, this method is also called as fault-based testing strategy. Now, the original program is coded and a fault, a small synthetic fault, that means a fault is introduced and into that program. So entire thing is known as, that fault is known as mutant. Now, a mutant, now there is a little definition here. So when it is killed, when they are stubborn or killable. So first we'll read this definition, then I'll explain. A mutant is said to be killed when the execution of the test case cause it fail and mutant is considered to be dead. Here, when the test cases cause the mutants to fail, it makes them fail. So that means we have proved that this change what we made is the wrong, correct it into original one, and the mutant what we have created is considerably dead. Some mutants are equivalent to the given program, then such mutants always produce the same output as the original program. Now, somewhat I felt that what the mutant I wrote, the mutant what I applied was the same as my original program written. There was nothing a change. So let the mutant as it is. The mutant will not hamper my code because earlier, after executing the mutant with the test cases, I felt it does not change my expected behavior. It was the same. Earlier, I had to kill because it was changing my behavior. Expected behavior was changed. So, when was killable or stubborn? Stubborn means unwillingly to refuse, means unwillingly to give up. The mutant is called killable or stubborn that this existing set of test cases is insufficient to kill it. Now, I don't have much test cases to prove or to prove the evidence of the test cases, whether it is failing of my test cases or it is providing me the expected output. So I don't have sufficient number of test cases designed. So I cannot kill mutants, that is stubborn. Then you have a mutation score for the test of test cases. Then it is a percentage of non-equivalent mutants killed by the test suite. Now, the test suit is said to be mutation adequate if its mutation score is 100. Now, we analysis in two steps. The mutation analysis in a two-step, that is, the adequacy of an existing test suite is determined to distinguish the given program from its mutants. That means my mutants, I have written my mutant program, but the test suite, what the test suite I have prepared, that means it consists of my test plan, test report, test cases, is determined to distinguish the given program. Of course, there are two programs, as I said, the original program and my mutant program. Then a given test suite may not be adequate to distinguish all non-equivalent mutants, those non-equivalent mutants that could not be identified. Yes, they are stubborn mutants, that means it cannot identify. Now, I hope you're getting little confused. So let me explain you with the mutant example. Suppose the original program says if x is greater than y, whereas the mutant I wrote is x is less than y. And the original program said if x is greater than y, then print hello, yes, else hi. Whereas my mutant program said x is less than y, print hello, else print hi. So my mutant, I wrote that mutant program just to check whether it is giving me expected behavior, it is failing. So my test cases should be adequate enough to prove that mutants are killable. Now, if the test suite may not have adequate, if there are non-mutants present and those are not reliable, that could not identify given suit, so they are still mutants alive and they are stubborn. They are, because my test cases is not enough to prove them. Now new test cases are added to the existing test suite to kill. Yes, I need to add some more test cases to kill those mutants because I need to fail them. I need to see. I need to verify. Yes, if I wrote this mutants, if I write x is less than y, and still a small, that is syntactic change I made, and still my program is okay with it. That means a specified output is generated, is expected or generated. So that mutant has to be killed. Now, the entire test suite enhancement process is iterative. Yes, it is iteration in nature. It has to be do it again and again until the test suite has reached into mutation score. That is, mutation score is 100%. Then we have to make the two assumptions that mutation testing makes two assumptions with this. That is complete programmer hypothesis. That means this assumption states that programmers are generally competent and they do not create random programs. Okay, the first I agree, because normally the programmers, the coders, they are so confident about themselves they don't want to create with the random programs, or they don't want to introduce the mutants because they are definite that once the requirement document is placed in them, they will code it accordingly. They will not make a mistake. So then you will ask me why to make test cases if the coders are so confident about themselves, why we are doing the test work and all the test cases, preparing the test cases, test plan, test suit for them, and then making the mutants and killing them. This is hypothesis. And they do not create a random program. So therefore, we assume that the given problem in a programmer will create a correct program except the simple errors. So in other words, a mutant to be considered are one falling from a small deviation of the original program. That means mutants fall off, of course, but in practice, such mutants are obtained by systematically and mechanically applied set of transformation called the mutation operators. In practice, this may be partly true. Now, this depends on firm to firm, organization to organization, that how they do the type of testing. Do they really follow the mutation testing, or they follow their own testing like height, mask the keywords and then make the test cases exhaustive and so on. This in the different strategies are being used nowadays. So these mutation operators are expected to model programming errors made by programmers. Now, sometimes the coupling effect, yes, the coupling effect is the high cohesion and low coupling effect. This principle you have followed in your software engineering. This comes from the software engineering, the coupling effect. The coupling should be low. Coupling, this means your one code, the function passing, that how the coupling is done, either message passing or function passing or interface, message interface kind of. If you interface two or three programmers, make sure that error coupling, the error fault propagating from one function to another should be very minimum level. That means, as I stated, the assumption can be restated as complex faults are coupled to simple faults in such that the test for detecting all simple faults in a program will detect most of its complex faults. Okay, that means, as I said earlier, the coupling effect, that means if there is the coupling effect, how coupled they are, how they are tied up, if they have a strong bond. Now, as a student, you can create two functions and you can just make sure that how strongly they are tied up from function A to function B. Are they strongly tied up? Then the fault effect of function B would be very strong. So you need to make them very loose tied up, give them less importance. So these faults can be propagated in a very minimum level. Now, if software contains a fault, there will usually be set of mutants that can only be killed by test case and also detect the fault. Of course, mutation testing helps the tester to inject by hypothesis a different types of fault in the code and helps to develop the test cases to reveal them. Okay, so they will usually set of mutants that only be killed once it detects the fault. So this can be by coupling effect also. Now, mutation testing helps the tester to inject, as I earlier read this paragraph, different types of faults in the code and develop the test cases to reveal them. Yes. So in addition, comprehensive testing can be performed by proper choice of mutant operations. So you have to choose your mutant very carefully, deciding on the operations. You have to think the hypothesis and also the coupling effect. Then running the test cases, analyzing the result, identifying equally mutants and developing test cases to kill stubborn mutants are all time consuming. This is challenging because every time running the exhaustive test cases and analyzing the result, when you change your mutants, again identify the equivalent mutants and developing additional, again double of the original test cases you have developed. Killing the stubborn mutants is very time consuming. I hope you understood the mutants. You can develop your own mutants and you can test at home. So you can enjoy your mutation testing. Here in this way we completed our mutation test.